My mother-in-law threw a party to celebrate my divorce before the judge had even touched our paperwork. She booked a hall, ordered a cake, and told the whole family to wear white for a fresh start. On the invitation, under my husband's smiling picture, she'd written, "Free at last." The only problem was, legally, I was still his wife. And I didn't walk into that party crying. I walked in holding my lawyer's arm. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Renee. I'm 38 years old, and for 10 years I tried to be the kind of wife my mother-in-law, Gloria, liked to brag about in church. I cooked. I worked. I made sure my husband, Andre, had clean socks and ironed shirts and something warm in his stomach, even on the days I wanted to crawl into bed and disappear. We lived, in a modest 3-bedroom house on the east side of town. The kind of place with creaky floorboards and a small porch out front where we used to sit on summer evenings, passing a bowl of grapes back and forth, talking about one-day dreams. "One day we'll fix that fence," Andre would say. "One day we'll turn that back room into a nursery," I would add, tracing circles on my mug. Some days, one day felt close enough to touch. Other days, it felt like a story we told ourselves to go to sleep. We never had children, not because we didn't try, God knows we did, but because life had other plans. 2 miscarriages, an ectopic pregnancy, a whole lot of quiet tears in bathrooms. Somewhere along the line, our grief turned into a space between us we didn't always know how to cross. Gloria, my mother-in-law, never forgave my body for that. When I first met her, she hugged me so tight I almost couldn't breathe. "Thank you for loving my baby," she said. Andre was 30 then. My baby was 6 feet tall with a beard, but in her eyes he was still the boy who used to sleep with his shoes on in case of fire. Gloria is one of those women who look smaller than their presence. 5'2", gray streaks in her hair she refuses to dye, always smelling faintly of white diamonds, perfume, and lemon furniture polish. She runs her house like a ship, everything shining, everyone in line. She liked me in the beginning. I had a good job as a nurse. I didn't have any kids from before. And I said, "Yes, ma'am," and "No, ma'am," without thinking about it. "Finally, a woman with sense," she'd say, patting my hand. "Not like these little girls out here." But as the years went by and no baby came, that praise turned into small, sharp comments. "You know, I had Andre when I was 20, she'd say, watching me wash dishes. "I just had to look at his father and I was pregnant." Or, "Have you tried those teas my neighbor sent on Facebook? Her cousin's friend used them and now she got twins." She always said it in that sweet, church lady voice that lets people pretend they're not being cruel. Andre would tell me, "That's just how she talks, baby. Don't let it get to you." But he never actually told her to stop. That was our pattern. Gloria would overstep, I would swallow it. Andre would stay in the middle, hands up, saying, "Y'all know how she is." On the outside, though, we looked fine. Andre worked at a car dealership as a salesman. I worked 3 12-hour shifts a week at the hospital. We shared bills, shared chores, shared a queen-sized bed that felt too big and too small at the same time. Our routine was simple. On my work days, I was up before dawn, moving quietly so I wouldn't wake him. On my days off, I'd make breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, sometimes pancakes if I felt like spoiling him. Andre would come in from a morning run, sweating, kiss my cheek, and say, "Smells good, Mrs. Bennett." It was the little things like that kept me going. Gloria lived 10 minutes away, close enough to drop by, and she did, a lot. Sunday dinners at her house, Wednesday check-ins at ours, phone calls at all hours, usually starting with, "What y'all doing?" and ending with, "Put my son on the line." Sometimes it was comforting, having family clothes. Other times, it felt like we had a third person in our marriage we hadn't really invited. Looking back, the cracks were there. They always are if you're honest. Andre started staying late at work more often. "Somebody's gotta close," he'd say, sliding his tie off in the hallway. I noticed months when the commission checks didn't quite match the hours he claimed. I noticed Gloria's comments changing from, "My son is so blessed to have you," to, "Don't work him too hard with that budget of yours." Still, I kept my head down, kept paying the mortgage, kept trying to be easy to live with. The first real clue that something was shifting came on a Wednesday afternoon. Gloria had called that morning. "You home today?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," I said, folding laundry on the bed. "I'm off, why?" "I baked too much cornbread," she said. "I'll drop some off later." By later, she meant 5 minutes. She was already in the driveway when she called. I met her at the door, the smell of butter and sage hitting me as soon as she walked in, carrying a covered dish with a floral oven mitt. "You didn't have to do all this," I said, taking it from her. The dish was warm in my hands. "I know," she replied, looking past me into the house. "Where's Andre?" "At work," I said. "He's got a late customer today." She hummed. "That job keeps him busy. You sure he's just selling cars?" She said it like a joke, but she watched my face closely. I forced a smile. "Well, if he's not," I replied. "He's hiding it real good. He comes home tired enough." Gloria walked in, her eyes doing that slow sweep they always did, taking stock. Couch cushions, coffee table, shoes by the door. "You should move that shoe rack," she said. "It's the first thing people see when they come in. Maybe that's why God hasn't brought more guests into this house." I bit the inside of my cheek. "I'll think about it." She settled herself at the kitchen table like it was hers, smoothing her skirt. "You okay?" she asked, suddenly softening. "You look worn." I shrugged, setting the cornbread down. "Long week, we were short 2 nurses. I've been covering." She tutted. "You work too hard. My son needs a wife who can give him attention, not just checklists." There it was, a little stab. "I give him attention," I said mildly. "He falls asleep on the couch half the time before the opening credits finish." She arched an eyebrow. "A man who sleeps too much at home is staying too awake somewhere else." It was such a Gloria thing to say that at first I just rolled my eyes. But that sentence stuck to the back of my mind like gum on a shoe. She stayed about an hour, gossiping about church folks, complaining about her neighbor's dog. When she finally left, the house felt bigger, quieter. I put the cornbread in the oven on low to keep it warm for dinner and sat on the couch, staring at nothing for a minute. That's when I heard Andre's phone buzz on the coffee table. He'd left it there that morning, in his rush out the door. The screen lit up with a preview of a message. From Mom. "Don't worry, we're going to get you out of this. Just stick to the plan." The plan. A cold little finger traced the length of my spine. I picked up the phone. My thumb hovered over his passcode, which I knew as well as my own birthday. For 10 years, we'd used each other's phones like spare hands. Grocery lists, GPS, "Google this for me, babe." Suddenly, that familiar code felt like a locked door I wasn't sure if I wanted to open. I put the phone back down. I told myself, if I go through his messages now, I'm accusing him. And if I don't find anything, I'm poisoning my own mind for no reason. So I made a choice that, to this day, I look back on with complicated feelings. I didn't open the phone. Instead, I picked it up, walked to our bedroom, and put it on his nightstand. Then I went back to my laundry and tried to fold away that low, humming unease. That night when Andre came home, he kissed my cheek, said, "Smells good in here, Mrs. Bennett," and headed straight to the shower. I watched him walk down the hall, his shoulders a little more tense than usual, and thought about that text. "We're going to get you out of this." Out of what? Out of *us. I told myself I was being dramatic. Gloria was always stirring something. Maybe she was talking about a work situation. Maybe Andre had complained to her about our arguments lately, the ones about him coming home late, about money, missing, about his mother always being in our business. I decided to wait, to watch, to see if this was smoke or fire. The problem with waiting, though, is that while you're deciding how hot it is, the house can already be burning. Part 2, suspicion turns to betrayal. ~1,000 words. After that first text from Gloria about getting him out of this, life didn't fall apart overnight. That's the dangerous thing. If everything shattered at once, you could at least see the mess clearly. But in my case, things unraveled quietly, stitch by stitch. Andre grew more distant in ways that were easy to excuse. He started coming home even later. "The market's crazy right now," he'd say, dropping his keys in the bowl. "If I don't stay and hustle, the new guys eat my commissions." He started showering before hugging me. That was new. For 10 years, he'd walk in, kiss my cheek or my forehead, then say, "Let me wash this day off." Now he went straight down the hall. He started sleeping closer to the edge of the bed. Not all at once. Just an inch here, a few inches there, until I realized there was a whole strip of cold mattress between us. "Are we okay?" I asked one night, lying in the dark, listening to his steady breathing. "We're fine," he replied. "You just been stressed, work, your mama's stuff, everything." There was a pause. "You know my mama worries about you too." I swallowed. "What does she say?" "That you seem unhappy," he said. "That maybe you'd be better off without all this pressure, without me always gone. She says she don't want you to resent me." Gloria, always the concerned one. Always framing things like she was saving me from her son, when I knew good and well she thought I wasn't good enough for him. I tried to brush it off. I cooked a little more. I put on lipstick even when I stayed home. I sent him flirty texts in the middle of the day like we used to do when we were engaged. The replies grew shorter. "Busy right now." "Later." Or nothing at all. One Sunday after church, Gloria cornered me near the punch bowl in the fellowship hall. "You didn't sing today," she observed, ladling bright red liquid into her cup. "Used to be you were always up in the choir." "Been picking up extra shifts," I said. "My feet aren't as saved as my heart these days." She chuckled politely, then leaned in. I caught a whiff of peppermint and perfume. "You know, some couples are better apart than together," she said softly. "God hates confusion." I frowned. "What are you saying, Gloria?" She shrugged, taking a sip. "I'm saying I've been watching you too. Lot of cold air coming off that table when y'all sit together. Andre's my baby. I can tell when he's tense. Maybe y'all need space, a reset. It doesn't have to be ugly." "Marriage isn't a bedroom arrangement you just reset," I replied. "We took vows, Gloria, remember." She patted my hand, her eyes all fake sympathy. "Sometimes the holiest thing you can do is let go," she murmured. "Pray on it." I watched her walk away, laughing a little too loudly at something a deacon said. For the first time, a thought pushed its way into my mind so clear I couldn't ignore it. She's not trying to save this marriage. She's trying to bury it. I held on like that for about another month. Then the truth stopped tapping politely and kicked the door in. It was a Thursday morning. I was in scrubs, keys in hand, about to leave for my shift when the doorbell rang. A man in a brown courier uniform stood on the porch, holding a large envelope. "Renee Bennett?" he asked. "Yes." He handed it to me, had me sign a little device, then walked back to his truck without another word. No smile, no small talk. The envelope felt heavier than it looked. I already knew, in that way your body knows before your brain catches up, that it wasn't going to be good. I sat down at the kitchen table, the same spot where I budgeted, where I'd once circled baby names in a magazine. My coffee steamed quietly beside me. I opened the envelope. At the top of the first page, in clean black letters, "Petition for dissolution of marriage ****. Andre's name, my name, 10 years reduced to paragraphs and bullet points. He cited irreconcilable differences, requested an equitable distribution of assets, asked to retain his full retirement account, suggested the house be sold and proceeds returned to the party's mother who contributed the initial down payment. The house, the only thing I had been clinging to as proof my life wasn't just air, that I had helped build something solid. My eyes moved over phrases that felt like slaps. Petitioner requests that respondent vacate the marital home within 30 days. Respondent has been emotionally distant and uncooperative. Petitioner has borne the majority of household financial responsibilities. That last one almost made me laugh. Bitter, sharp me, uncooperative him, bearing the financial weight. I thought about the evenings I'd walked into surgery overtime just to make sure the mortgage was paid. The nights I'd been too tired to stand but still cooked so he'd have a real meal after his shift. The words on the page blurred. I realized I was crying when a tear dropped onto the paper, leaving a dark spot. My phone buzzed on the table. It was a text from Gloria. "You home?" I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand, stared at the screen. A part of me wanted to ignore her. Another part of me, the part that craved answers, typed back. "Yes." She replied almost instantly. "I'm coming over. We need to talk." I didn't have the strength to tell her no. 15 minutes later, she walked in without knocking, like always. She took one look at the envelope on the table and didn't even pretend to be surprised. "So you got it," she said, setting her purse down and lowering herself into a chair. "You knew?" I asked softly. She didn't flinch. "I helped him find a lawyer," she said. "Andre, never been good with paperwork." My heart stuttered. "You helped him file for divorce, without even talking to me. You stand up in church every week and talk about keeping families together." "Sometimes keeping a family together means removing the rot," she replied smoothly. "You two haven't been happy for a long time. You know that." "Unhappiness is rot, Gloria," I said, my voice shook. "Marriage has seasons. You don't throw the whole tree away because the leaves fell off." She leaned forward, eyes hard. "Renee, look at me. You and my son are not just going through a season. He is drowning. The arguing, the tension, the lack of children." Her eyes flicked down my body like my womb was a broken appliance. Something in me hardened. "So this is about the Bobbies," I said. "It always comes back to the Bobbies." "It's about the future," she snapped. "Andre wants a family, he wants peace. You want control." Those words hit me like she'd thrown something. I sat there, stunned that she could twist everything I'd done for her son into control. Every budget, every plan, every time I'd begged him to set boundaries with her. She softened her tone then, fake gentle. "Listen," she said. "I told Andre from the start, if you're going to do this, do it clean. No cheating, no scandal, file proper, be honest." That's what he's doing. It doesn't have to be a war. "Then why does it feel like an ambush?" I whispered. She straightened her blouse. "You've got 30 days, she said, nodding toward the line on the petition. "That's generous. I told him to do it sooner, but he insisted." Charity, in her mind. As she stood to leave, she added, almost as an afterthought, "Oh, don't be surprised if you hear things. Andre has a right to celebrate his freedom. He's been under a lot." "Celebrate," I repeated blankly. "Celebrate what? Destroying his vows." She shrugged, picked up her purse. "You'll understand when you're on the other side," she said. "Sometimes divorce is deliverance." When she left, the house felt alien, like it was holding its breath. I sat there for a long minute, then picked up the petition again. I read it from top to bottom, every lie, every half-truth, every omission. Each sentence peeled back a layer of denial. That afternoon, I called into work and told them I wouldn't be in. "Everything okay?" my supervisor asked. "No," I said, "but it will be." First, I called my cousin Keisha. She's a paralegal, the same one who'd sat beside me at Aunt Brenda's when my uncle changed his will. She listened quietly, then said, "You need a shark, I got a name." The name was Ms. Carter. Her office was small but neat, with degrees on the wall and a plant in the corner that actually looked alive. She shook my hand firmly, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "Tell me what happened, all of it." I slid the petition across her desk. As she read, her eyebrows climbed. 10-year marriage," she murmured. "No kids, you both work. House purchased 5 years in, both names on the deed. He wants you out in 30 days and the house proceeds to go back to his mama." She looked up. "That's bold." "His mother paid part of the down payment," I admitted. "We covered the rest and every mortgage payment since." Ms. Carter nodded slowly. "Down payment help is one thing, but this house is marital property. You've been contributing to it for years. You're entitled to equity and likely to spousal support, depending on income differences." He says I've been emotionally distant and uncooperative, I said, almost apologetically. She snorted softly. Everybody writes that, she said. Judges see through it. Right now, the question is, did your marriage struggle? Are you going to hand them everything they want just because they served you first? Something in me straightened. No, I said. It surprised me how solid it sounded. Good, she replied. Because from where I sit, they're underestimating you. They think you're going to cry, pack a bag, and leave them with the house and the story. I thought of Gloria's satisfied face in my kitchen. I thought of Andre claiming financial martyrdom while I still had indentations on my nose from N95 masks. What do I do? I asked. We respond, Ms. Carter said. We file a counter. We document everything you've contributed. Your income, his, the down payment, yes, but also every month you've kept the lights on while he stayed late. We request your fair share of the house, his retirement, maybe temporary support while you get resettled. She leaned back. And meanwhile, you stay put. Don't move out. You have as much right to that house as he does. When I left her office, papers in hand, I felt not happy, not healed, but armed. I thought the next blow would come from Andre. Instead, it came from Gloria, by accident. About a week later, I was in my living room when my phone buzzed with a message. A screenshot from Keisha, with no caption. It was a WhatsApp group chat. The name at the top read, Andre's Fresh Start Party Popper. The last message from Gloria said, Reminder, Saturday 6 p.m. at the community hall. White and gold theme. We're celebrating my son finally being free. Cake is ordered. It says free AT last. Don't tell Renee, shushing face. Beneath it, a string of responses. Yes, we turning up. About time, Auntie. I'll bring the champagne. In the participant list at the top, I recognized almost every name. Cousins, church friends, even one of Andre's coworkers. The only reason I'd seen it was because Keisha had been accidentally added, then quietly removed, long enough for her to take a screenshot. My divorce wasn't just a piece of paper to them. It was a party. I sat there, staring at the words, free AT last, and felt something inside me go very still. They were planning to celebrate the end of my marriage like a graduation, white and gold, a cake, a theme. For a moment, I wanted to scream, cry, break something. But under that wave of hurt was another feeling I didn't expect. A cold, clear kind of amusement. Oh, you want a show, I whispered to myself, wiping one stubborn tear away. Okay. I forwarded the screenshot to Ms. Carter. Her reply came back in less than a minute. Interesting, when is this? Saturday, Community Hall on Green Street. Can you get me an invite? I stared at that question, then typed. I'm already not supposed to know about it. Even better, she replied. If they're going to make your divorce a spectacle, we might as well use the audience. I'll free my evening. The image came to my mind, so suddenly it made me laugh. A short, sharp sound in the empty house. Gloria, in her best white dress. Andre, smiling for his fresh start pictures. A cake that said, free AT last. And me, walking in not with a bottle of wine or a box of tissues, but with my lawyer. All right then, I said out loud, to no one and to myself. If they want to celebrate, let's give them something real to toast to. Part 3, the party and public consequence. Tilda 1000 words. The days before the divorce party moved in slow motion. Andre didn't mention filing. He didn't mention the party either. He moved around the house like a guest who'd stayed too long, polite, distant, careful not to bump into any sharp corners. At night, he slept with his back to me. I stopped trying to cross the space between us. On Friday, the day before the party, he finally said something. We were in the kitchen, him pouring cereal, me rinsing coffee mugs. The morning light came in at a strange angle, making everything look flatter. So, you got the papers, he said, not really asking. Yes, I replied. He cleared his throat. It doesn't have to be ugly, you know. Then you shouldn't have lied about who carried what, I answered. or given me 30 days to leave a house I've been paying for right alongside you." He sighed, putting the milk back a little too hard. "You always make everything a battle, Renee. My mom was just trying to help. She even said we could celebrate peacefully, make it a new chapter." I looked at him. "You mean the white and gold party she's planning at the community hall tomorrow? The one with the free last cake?" His spoon froze halfway to his mouth. His eyes flicked to me, then away. "Who told you that?" "God," I said dryly, "and a screenshot." He opened his mouth like he wanted to protest, then shut it. "It's just a thing," he muttered. "A way to mark the change." "Seems like the change is being marked before a judge makes anything official," I said. "You might want to hold off on celebrating your freedom until you see what it actually costs." He frowned, not understanding, but he didn't ask. That was the thing about Andre, he liked comfort more than clarity. Saturday came. I spent the morning cleaning, not because anyone was coming over, but because I needed something I could control: countertops, floors, silverware drawers, things that stayed where I put them. Around 3, I took a shower and got dressed. Not in black, not in something pitiful. I put on a simple cream blouse, dark jeans, and a blazer that made me feel like my back was straight even when it wanted to curl. I did my makeup light, just enough to make me look like I hadn't been crying in my car a few days earlier. At 5:30, Ms. Carter pulled up in front of my house. She stepped out in a navy suit, heels low but firm. "You ready?" she asked. "No," I said honestly, "but I'm going anyway." She smiled, not unkindly. That's usually how courage feels. We drove to the community hall in her car. The parking lot was already half full. Sedans, minivans, a few shiny cars I recognized from Andre's dealership crew. Through the big windows, I could see movement. White and gold decorations. Balloons. Somebody had hung a banner, but from this distance, I couldn't read it. My stomach clenched. For a second, I wanted to tell her to turn around, to go home, to crawl under my covers and let them have their fun. Instead, I unbuckled my seatbelt. "Whatever happens in there," Ms. Carter said quietly, "you remember, you are not crashing their event. They built this whole spectacle on your life. You're simply stepping onto a stage they already set." Inside the hall, the air was cool and smelled faintly of fried food and vanilla frosting. White tablecloths, gold paper plates, a DJ in the corner scrolling through his playlist, nodding his head to a beat only he could hear fully. A big cake on a side table, 3 tiers, white icing with gold lettering that spelled out, clear as day, "Free last, ANDRE." Beneath it, in smaller script, "New beginnings." I laughed. I couldn't help it, a small, disbelieving sound. Heads turned. Conversations dipped, the volume dropping like someone had turned a knob. People blinked. Some looked away quickly, guilty. A few stared, wide-eyed, as if they were watching a car accident in slow motion. Gloria was at the center of it all. Of course, she wore a structured white dress with a gold brooch shaped like a dove. When she saw me, her face went through a whole story in a second. Shock, annoyance, then practiced concern. "Renee," she exclaimed, stepping forward with her arms slightly out. You came." "You invited half the city," I said mildly. Was I not considered part of people anymore? Andre was standing near her, in a white button-down, gold tie loose around his neck, holding a plastic cup. He looked like someone had yanked the ground out from under him. "Renee, what are you doing here?" he asked. His eyes darted from me to Ms. Carter at my side. I slipped my arm through hers deliberately. "Oh, forgive me," I said. "Let me introduce you. This is Ms. Carter, my attorney." A ripple went through the nearest tables. "Attorney," one cousin whispered to another. "It's about to be a movie," the other whispered back. Gloria's eyes narrowed just for a second, then she put her party face back on. "This is a family event," she said carefully, "not a courtroom." "Then maybe the family shouldn't be discussing legal matters in group chats," Ms. Carter replied smoothly. "Don't worry, Ms. Bennett, I'm just here as support, for now." I stepped a little closer, letting my gaze move around the room. relatives, people from church. A few of Andre's coworkers I only recognized from Christmas parties, all here to toast his freedom. I took a breath. "I won't take much of your time," I said, lifting my voice just enough to carry. "I know y'all came to celebrate. I just thought you should know what exactly you're raising a glass to." "Renee, don't do this," Andre muttered, setting his cup down. "You filed the papers," I replied without looking at him. "You planned the party. The least you can do is stand here and listen." You could almost hear the click of attention as people fully tuned in. The DJ, sensing the shift, turned the music down to a murmur. "Some of you have known me 10 years, I began. "Some of you met me once at a barbecue. Here, what you probably haven't heard because the story has been edited." A couple of cousins shifted uncomfortably. Gloria's jaw tightened, but she stayed quiet. 10 years ago, I married Andre," I said. "I walked into this family with nothing but love and a willingness to work. I stood in a church with many of you watching and promised to be there, for better or worse." I turned slightly, so I faced the cake, then the room again. "The worst came," I continued. "Miscarriages, money stress, long hours, his mother calling me barren behind closed doors." A few people gasped. Gloria's eyes flashed. "And through all of that, when the mortgage was due, when the lights needed paying, when his car insurance was about to lapse," I said, "whose paycheck do you think rolled in right beside his? Who picked up double shifts to keep this man's credit from sinking?" "I never said you didn't help," Andre muttered. You said it in here," I cut in, pulling a folded copy of the petition from my bag and lifting it slightly. "You said you bore the majority of household financial responsibilities, and that I've been emotionally distant and uncooperative. You said you should get to kick me out of our house in 30 days and hand it back to your mother like I was a long-term guest." Murmurs swelled. Somebody sucked their teeth. Someone else whispered, 30 days, after 10 years. Gloria crossed her arms. "We're not discussing private documents in front of everybody," she snapped. "You made it public when you turned it into a themed event," I answered. "White and gold, free at last." "A cake." I glanced at it again. "Speaking of which, Ms. Carter." She stepped forward, her voice cool and professional. "I'm not here to litigate in a hall," she said. "But since there seems to be a misunderstanding about who is free from what, allow me to clarify a few things." She turned slightly, addressing the small crowd without posturing. "Under our state law, this house Andre is trying to evict Renee from his marital property. Yes, his mother contributed some of the down payment. Gifts of that nature are not automatically reimbursed, especially when both spouses have paid the mortgage for years." She held up a document. "We've already filed a response. We are requesting Renee's full share of the equity, a portion of Andre's retirement, and given the income gap and her sacrifices, temporary spousal support." I saw Andre's face lose a shade of color. "And until all that is settled," she continued, "no one is forcing her out of that house in 30 days. The court will decide what's fair. Not Gloria, not a group chat, not a cake." There was a beat of stunned silence. Then someone near the back let out a low, "Hugh." Gloria stepped forward, cheeks flushed. "How dare you bring this woman into my event to disrespect me?" she hissed. "After everything I've done for you." "For *him, I corrected gently. "Not for me. Everything you've ever done, Gloria, you handed to Andre with a receipt attached, reminding him who paid." Her mouth opened, then closed. She wasn't used to me talking like that. "I'm not here to beg anyone to stay married to me," I said. "If Andre wants out, that's his right. I'm not here to throw myself on the cake and cry." A little laugh rippled. Even I smiled faintly. "I'm just here to make something clear. You don't get to use me up and then toss me out like trash with a side of confetti," I said. "If you're going to celebrate, at least celebrate with the whole truth on the table." I looked at Andre then, really looked at him. "You could have come to me," I said quietly. "We could have done counseling, or we could have ended this in private with mutual respect. You chose this." I motioned at the hall. "The group chat, the story where you're the victim and I'm the burden." His eyes were shiny, but he blinked hard. "You made it hard to talk to you," he muttered. You always had a plan, a budget, a way you thought things should be. That's true, I admitted. I had plans for us, for the house, for a family we never got. Maybe I held on tighter than you did, but I never planned around you, and I never would have thrown you a party for blowing up my life. I stepped back then, letting my shoulders relax. I'm not telling you all this to turn you against Andre, I said to the room. I'm telling you so that when you see pictures from tonight, when you hear the version that gets told at barbecues, you'll know there's another side. A woman who gave 10 years of her heart and her labor, and who refused to leave empty-handed. I turned back to Gloria. You said sometimes divorce is deliverance, I reminded her. You were right, just not in the way you thought. Then I nodded to Ms. Carter. I think I've said enough. We walked out as quietly as we'd walked in. No screaming, no plate throwing, no candle-lit meltdown. Just the sound of my own heels on the linoleum, and the low murmur of a room suddenly forced to see more than just white and gold. In the parking lot, the evening air felt cooler. I exhaled for what felt like the first time all day. You did well, Ms. Carter said. You stayed dignified. That's harder than people think. I'm still shaking, I admitted, holding up my hand. It trembled faintly. That's okay, she said. Strength isn't the absence of shaking, it's walking in anyway. Over the next few months, the legal process did what it does, slowly, impersonally, but effectively. Andre tried to fight some of it, claimed I didn't deserve a share of his retirement, said his mother needed the house money back. The paperwork and court dates flattened all that down into numbers, dates, signatures. In the end, the judge didn't give me everything Ms. Carter asked for. But he gave me enough. Half the equity from the house, a portion of Andre's retirement, temporary support for a year while I got my footing. I moved out on my asterisk timeline, not Gloria's. I took my things, my name, and the parts of myself I'd almost forgotten I had. A few relatives reached out quietly. I didn't know it was like that, one cousin texted. I'm sorry for laughing when I first heard about the party. Gloria never apologized. That's not who she is. But the next time I saw her, months later at a distant cousin's baby shower, she didn't meet my eyes. Not once. And when someone tried to bring up Andre's fresh start, another aunt cut them off with a look. Sometimes, silence is its own kind of consequence. As for Andre, he called me once after the settlement. His voice was small. I didn't think it would be like this, he said. Splitting everything, paying support, I just wanted peace. You could have had peace, I replied. You chose easy instead. They're not the same thing. He sighed. I hope you're okay, he said finally. I'm getting there, I answered, and hung up gently. Now I live in a smaller place, just 2 bedrooms. One is my room, the other is nothing yet. A guest room, an office, a space where I put things I'm not ready to throw away. I cook for one. I buy flowers sometimes, just because they make the table look less empty. I work, I rest. I see a therapist who keeps handing me back pieces of myself I didn't know I'd given away. I'm not free at last in the way Gloria meant. I'm not out in the streets. I'm not partying in white and gold. But I am free from begging for basic respect. Free from shrinking myself to make a boy trapped in a man's body feel tall. Free from a mother-in-law who thought my worth started and ended in my womb and my paycheck. And that kind of freedom, that's worth more than any cake. Would you like me to write the closing audience reflection now, speaking directly to the listeners with the moral and a question, in Auntie Me style?